one day. He says, you know, Eddie, he says, she might have the sizes, but I got the looks. Anyway, my favorite story about Al Nardone, I was a weekend warrior. Went down to Minneapolis on a weekend. Just Catherine and Al are married now, of course, and they had one child, Margaret. And so Al invites me first to a poker game that he's got with his buddies. So I went over there. I had $12 that Virginia had given me for my trip down there. I was a weekend warrior. I used to fly airplanes on weekends anyway. I'd take Old Chamberlain Field. So I stayed over down at Nardone's house, Margaret and Catherine. Anyway, so went to the poker game with Al anyway, and I lost $10, and I had $15 all told, I think, when I went down there. And I came home, and I was long-faced. He said, Eddie, don't worry about it. Next time you come down, we'll play again. You know, next time you'll win. I'm not sure, Al. So that night, guess what he fixed? He fixed one of these wonderful Italian dinners, see? He's got it all spread out and turned it to. So I sat down to dinner and said it to him. I just get started. I reach for the bread. He's got all the fresh, beautiful bread cut nicely. So I said, right in the middle of the meal, I said, Al, where's the peanut butter? Peanut butter! He said, hey, you don't eat peanut butter. This is Italian food. He said, don't eat chicken. Anyway, that's my favorite story with Al.
Story about Nardone. But he tried. No, you know, anyway, I brought him off the Indian Hills for the first time. At Indian Hills, you pay so much money at the beginning of the year, you hit as many golf balls as you want. And they had a cart there probably about 6 feet long by 3 feet wide, full of golf balls. And you walked by that, and he turned around, he looked like this, he said, what's that? I said, they're balls, I'll take a bucket and take them in here. He says, I never seen so many golf balls in my life. Anyway, I'd tell him about the time you're playing golf with him. And what did you get? You had a birdie putt and you missed it? And Nardone was late about 9 or 10. And Ed misses the putt, and Nardone says, so, boy, you dummy, if you would have made that putt, we would have won the hole.
Anyway. We were at Christmas time at the Nardones, which was, of course, infamous, or notorious, or whatever you want to call it. But the Pierces weren't coming that year, okay? So they made dinner and everything. Well, all of a sudden, some of the Pierces couldn't think of anything better to do but to go to Uncle Al's house for dinner, you know, this great Italian dinner. So I was in the service at the time, and I'm cutting a ham, and he says, cut it thin. So I cut one off about 1/4 of an inch. He says, thinner. So I cut one so it rolls off the bread, the knife, you know, like a piece of paper. He says, a little thinner.
Hey! I was out at Fort Snelling playing golf. I don't know if I was playing golf, but Uncle Jim wound up out there playing golf too. And he came running up to me and he gave me a big hug and a kiss and everything. And so he goes back to the 3 guys he's playing with, and the guy said to him, who was that? He said, well, that was my sister, that was my niece. Yeah, they said. So a couple of days later, my mom's out there playing golf, and Uncle Jim's out there playing golf again with the same 3 guys. He goes over and gives her a big old hug and a kiss. He goes back, and the guy said, who is that? And he goes, that was my sister. And I don't think they ever believed it.
Sometimes we come on the weekend and stay over maybe a couple of days. We're in the backyard playing with a wiffle ball, baseball or something. They had that sun deck up there where the porch was, where the door opened up and you sit up there. So I hit the ball up in there and it goes right into the sun deck. I'm running around the base and laughing. Oh, it's a holder, it's a holder. I'm out there, you're out, you're out, you're out, you're out. And it's my face dropped over like that. I look over and here he's laughing so hard he can hardly stand up. And then I knew he was just kidding me, so I just kept on running around. He was kidding me.
He got thrown out at home.
In the backyard of our house, I worked nights. I slept in a 1-bedroom window, and the kids would always tell us, don't hit that window with a ball, because the game will be over. Don't wake us up.
Yeah, I'll tell a story of myself. At Mom and Dad's 25th wedding anniversary, I accidentally went in the men's room. I didn't know it was the men's room. Went in the bathroom. And I thought it looked a little strange when I went in there, but I thought, well, I'll just go potty and get out of here. And I hoped nobody saw me come in, but when I came out, I think half of my male cousins were standing around laughing and pointing at me.
Were you 21?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
The only time they ever embarrassed me.
Yeah.
I remember, I just tell you, I don't know if it was Margaret or Barbara's wedding, but I remember both those ways that we went and danced to Al Howard. And I remember we were young, but I remember Uncle Al let Paul Nardone and I suck down a couple of beers. I mean, we were not very old. And then I remember we started kind of weaseling our way back over to the beer again because there was a keg on the spigot. And he thought he cut us off. He said, a half a cup each, and that's it. Nurses, there's no more. And he let us have a half a cup of beer.
Must have been our wedding. The priest had drunk most of it. But
Many of you have already heard the story. Probably something that happened. Like Jim said, we used to go over the kind of treat, stay over at the Nardone overnight or on the weekend. Treat, Uncle Al treated us so well. One time we went to the grocery store and we had a cart and we were loading up groceries and there was a big display of Kraft caramel. And I was looking at him and also, Greg, if you want, some of those, go grab a bag. Well, they had this big display, all these small bags, then they had this display with about 6 of these bags that were about this big. So I went over there and grabbed one of those big bags. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 8 years old or so. And I put the thing over my shoulder and I broke out the caramel and all that. Uncle Al does me the crap kid out of that. And I used to get kind of not mad, but embarrassed every time you say that. Because everybody knew the story. We each had it. Yeah, that's my bonding there.
It's interesting. He never sent me to the counter to go pick up. That's kind of the way it works.
Yeah. Well, I remember Tom many times telling me, your dad used to like me. Because you like that all the time, Tom. Oh, no. You see it when you're not here. It's different when you're not here.
Well, not so different. I mean, I always wondered why he did all the grocery shopping, and I eventually figured that out. He wanted to know where every buck was going.
Yeah.
It was way around in there. No, that's what he did.
Hey, Tom, would you share that story about the same pants and shirt that you shared earlier?
I was, my daughters, neither one of them knew my dad, so I tell them as many stories as I can. And, one time I was telling them how it used to drive me nuts. He'd come home from work, take that suit off, put on the same crappy pair of shorts and the same ugly olive green shirt every day. When I got done telling them the story and I looked down, I realized it's probably the same ugly shorts I put on. About 4 or 5 days. I'll tell you what, that hurts. When that light bulb goes off.
when you were traveling for AAA, I think, and you would come to our house. And he had a magic. He was a fabulous magician. I don't know if you guys knew this. But he would make coins disappear. But the trick was you had to turn around while he made it up.
I got a story about our Grandma Pierce. Grandma Pierce was lost my dad. She was a widow and she lived on McCullough Street in Duluth. And my dad's cousin, he had lost his wife too. He was a barber. He used to cut her hair when I was a kid. He'd do it with the clippers, Geez, he was a lousy barber. Anyway, my mother didn't like him very well. So he was take the bus, and then if you came up by the golf course there, she could see people coming. She'd be sitting looking out the window. So when she saw him coming, and she pulled the shades down and everything, hi. So he left. So there's one time, he sees him coming up, and he's got a bag in his hand, He says, my God, maybe he's bringing me some ice cream. So she leaves the windows open, everything else. I reach him at the door. It looked like rain. He brought his rubbers with him. She ever pierced off, I'll tell you that. That's the new saying now, pierced off, we don't need it.
I can remember somebody, most of your parents, when you tell them you're moving away from home, they're not too darn happy. Say what? When you're moving, you say you're going to move away from home, move out. They're not too happy. They're not too unhappy. They're not, hey, can I see you? Anyway, I remember Margaret telling me, she said, Jim, I told my dad I wanted to go. She said he got mad. And he took it as a huge fault, that she even would suggest that she should move away from the home that Uncle Al provided. That is, like I said, that's not very many parents say that.
We were
They watched the roadman. But I remember Margaret telling me that.
Well, you always were martyrs.
Yeah.
Slowed down, so just taken aback by it. That he was, not that I didn't expect it, but usually you just, from him, you wouldn't, you could understand it. Anybody else, Okay,
John, you must have something to say about your father-in-law.
No, not here. He might be listening. Sure.
I have something that was always a special memory for me. Ever since I was a little girl, Uncle Al would say, well, when you turn old enough to drink, and at that time it was like 21, when you turn 21, we're going to go out for dinner. And so, I'm thinking I'm 6, 7, and 8 years old. Well, that's 100 years from now. Well, when I was old enough to drink, I think it was the drinking age was 18. So I remember I have to call up Uncle Al, and we have to go out for dinner. So my mom and dad and I and Alan Catholic went to Gammon for liver and onions. Because I knew.
Wow, what a treat! Wow, woo!
And that was fun. It was really neat.
But you had to call and remind him?
Well, I think I saw him probably that Christmas.
Okay.
And my birthday's in March. So
Okay.
I think as it got closer, it was, well, not this year, but next year, or, first it's going to be 21, and then it got shortened up real quick for
But we used to do that quite a bit. We used to trade pins. Now, probably when you were at my house, I might have been at your house. We trade for like a week or something. And I'll never forget staying at Aunt Bernice and Uncle Jim's house. I remember Aunt Bernice, that's all she did all day that I recall. She used to iron. She used to iron the underwear. This woman's a hard worker. My mother doesn't iron my underwear.
Well, I think she only hired her own.
That didn't last very long.
Must have been a big
Anybody remember the time Christmas was up? You guys lived out in India. We came for our usual Christmas Eve Italian dinner, and there was a big snowstorm, and we had to stay over. I remember. How much fun that was. Sleeping on the floor.
Yeah, I think we were all, it was all 19 of us, or however many were born.
Under the age of,
After that, he came to the Lord. So much of the liquor Remember that tire came off that truck and wrecked your bike? You guys all got new bikes and stuff. That was cool.
We lived on a highway.
Tire came off the truck and it wrecked it. Somebody bought it in place. Scared the life out of my father.
I was wondering if either of Uncle Ed and Aunt Jenny's children we were there, we used to go there Christmas Day for dinner. They would come to our house Christmas Eve and we would go there Christmas Day. And I recall that there was some conversation that was hush-hush. Now, does any of you guys remember about the marijuana under the chair in the family room? Does anyone remember? No,
Wasn't that oregano? I thought it was oregano.
I never did hear the story, and I never will. The true story.
Okay, her email address is up there. Go ahead and do that.
You got tape?
I've got one for Uncle Al and Mary Kay. Uncle Al was always really special to me, along with Aunt Catherine and all my aunts and uncles. But Uncle Al, he was always encouraging, and I think because I had such a big mouth, and I don't know why Billy wasn't avocado, because he had a bigger mouth than I did. But Uncle, and I mean that lovingly, because Billy's always had a great sense of humor, but Uncle Al, I always remember him. L'avocado, that's the first Italian word that I learned, and it means lawyer, because I could talk so well or whatever that I was going to be a lawyer. And I remember Uncle Al telling me that, and then learning how to say l'avocado, and then not becoming a lawyer, but it was always okay with him, because no matter who you were or what you were, you know, he loved you, you know. And my favorite story was, I think it was Fort Snelling. I told Mary Kay that somehow we were out at the pool or whatever, and she had the convertible. But I thought it was her. That didn't matter. That's my memory. So maybe I'm glad I had a convertible, and she had the keys. She took me special, and we went for a drive in that convertible. And that's the first convertible I'd ever ridden in. And the song Indian Lake was on the radio. And I think she was feeling pretty cool, too, because her hair was blonde, and she had that radio cranked way up, you know, and I could still hear Indian Lake. Anyway, it was really important to me because, you know, she took the time to spend some time with me and stuff. And I know we're talking with, when we were little and stuff like that, the older cousins would take care of the younger cousins. And I was never used to being treated nice because I was getting the crap beat out of me. Anyway. Yeah. He never asked for it.
No. I'm sure.
I took your mother for a ride down Circuit in my Corvette. And I stepped on the gas the first time. And she said something like, I think you better slow down because I might wet my pants. Because she just, oh my gosh, you know, I mean, it was faster than what she was used to ride. She wasn't as pleased with it as I thought she might be.
We go on 4th of July over at Uncle Ed's and we play golf on this little par 3 course. And it was hot. I don't know how hot it was, but it was darn hot. And I can remember I was playing with Aunt Catherine, and I looked over at her. I never realized that she dyed her hair. I looked over, and she's got this black stuff running all down her face. And she said, Aunt Catherine, your hair is melting. I didn't know. And she goes, oh, don't worry about it, Ken. I'll be fine. Well, it only dawned on me probably like 3 years later what happened. Yeah.
Sweet potatoes.
Sweet potatoes.
No.
You used to make sweet potatoes, and you always wanted me to try them. I never liked them. Always wanted you to try them.
Yeah, they never did. Never do.
But you know I like them now. But you know, to this day when I do make sweet potatoes, I think about you. No matter how I make them, I think about you.
Think about it, maybe one right here.
I've got one story that goes back 65 years, so think about this now. This is showing a flaw in my character. I must have done it anyway. I had a paper out, and Jim, my brother Jim, was helping me on this paper out one morning. And I just purchased a new car, 1929 Ford convertible. Jim, you remember it? Model A. So I take this on the paper out and drive it down. Of course, we didn't have any money to speak of at all. So anyway, but in the back of the little convertible, I had a gas can. You know what the gas can was for? You go and siphon gas. out of the gas tank. So we're delivering papers one morning, and we're going down, and there's a policeman who lives on the route anyway, and I know where he lives, but we drove through the alley, and there was a car next to him, a new car, I'd never seen it before, on that street. Looks like he was going to get the gas. Had the hose with him, went back to the car, and got the hand, put it in there. What about this much gas? Oh, of course, it's a little heavy to honk at night. Guess who was looking out the window all the time? It was at 5:30 in the morning, it's the policeman. So now here, Jim and I go on, we get back in the car and put the gas can. We drive a little bit and then take the gas can out again. So we're walking down, and all of a sudden I see this car coming. So I guess I threw it over the foot. It was kind of, Jim and I kept walking down. So the car stops. Jim gets out, didn't have his uniform on. So he said, what were you carrying in your hand a few minutes ago? Nothing. Oh, you didn't, huh? So he walked over to the, pulled out the gas can out of the weed. Is this yours? Yeah. Well, anyway, in his car we go, Jim and I, the gas can, up to my mother's house, 5:30, 46 in the morning. The policeman knocks on the door, and here's Jim and I standing there. There's the gas tank. My mother comes to the door, and she's shocked. What happened? The policeman tells her. I got a lecture from them. So I looked over at my mother, Jim, and guess what? A little wet.
Grandma can do that, Jim.
The funny part was, though, what the cop said. So I don't know whether to take you guys down to the station or take you home. I said, take us to the station.
That's the last time we did it, believe me.
When I was coming from Uncle Al, I think you guys lived on west side, Lake Nicole. Anyway, pretty shit, a couple of drinks too. We get going. And I'm just driving, she's half asleep when I'm driving. She said, Jim, you all stop for this. What for? We're going to make a good time. You went by that car 3 times. That was making great time. Most days you get by with it. I wouldn't recommend that now.
Remember one time at Christmas Eve, we were leaving Uncle Al. Everybody kind of survived a little bit, and Dad had been drinking, Mom had a drink or something. Somebody suggested that, I think it was Mark, he had his driver's permit.
Oh, God.
And somebody said, well, why don't Mark, let's let Mark drive. And Mom piped up and said, what? And endanger all our lives?
Yes, it was me. Nothing like really boasting your confidence, you know? No, Grandma would always say, I don't know what highway it was, but, you know, you're going to let him drive on Blood Alley?
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm just coming 62 and 35.
Yeah, but I promise never to tell that story, but it's okay if you do.
Anthony,
Yeah.
can you tell any sort of a story about playing liar's dice at my father's table? He could sit at that table and play liar's dice, and he could get any one of those positions he wanted to. He knew exactly who was going to be out of the game before they were out. I think he did kind of pick on you, if I recall.
You know, remember Begging Paul? It's a
Begging Paul, yeah, I'm begging you.
He set it up so that he wanted to get rid of the person next to him. I was so stupid, I didn't know that. And then I passed it on and see the wrong thing. He says, he says, I was trying to keep you in the game. What's the matter with you? Wake up!
I never said, don't bring that over here. You can be left with 4 3s and a 5 or something. He'd say, don't even bring it over there. He'd do this, he up the cup. He'd give you the thumb for up the cup.
Second call. Uncle Al was telling me one time he was playing golf with this guy. The guy was cheating. I said, what do you do in a situation like that? He says, well, I said, if he's cheating, you got to cheat along with him. He says he had a $7
Right straight across. Fractured her patella. And they put her in a cast from the top of her leg to her ankle. And they came to Wichita or whatever, and my mom's got one stiff leg, and they decided they were going to play golf. They go out and play golf, and you know my mother beat him with that cast on her leg. He was in a very bad mood when they got
One of the golf stories, Al Nardone is playing Fort Snelling, and he's in competition this Sunday morning, I remember so well. And they're playing medal play, and Al was, not a great golfer, but the guy he was playing with was so much better than he was. He got to the 17th hole, or the 18th hole. There's no water on the right on 18. He headed over the water. Well, anyway, I think it was, but he's got about 10 strokes, and he's going into 18. He's kind of proud of it. Until he teed it up on 18, and he hit 9 balls in the water. I couldn't beat him. He hit him again. He hit him again. Oh my God, if the guy didn't beat him on 18, he beat him by 2 strokes. Billy, where are you, Billy?
He was leaving as we were bringing this up.
Age must have been about 20, grade 19, 28. So little young kids went down to Iowa. They didn't know when we were coming back exactly. So we had a big party Friday night. We come walking in the door about 10 o'clock Saturday morning. They didn't expect us. Well, there's about 3 empty cases of beer, a couple of jugs of booze, stuff like that. So I walked in the door, and all of a sudden, Grandma walked in the door, and we went in the bedroom. We came back out of the bedroom. Everything was gone. They moved. Yeah, just that fast. They had it out of there.
Hey, Timmy, why did you tell, was it you and Billy?
John.
John and Billy.
John.
To the party and went to Sears Roebuck and bought a whole. Where's Billy?
He's not gone.
Want you to fess up.
Tell the story about when we were gone and you and John had a party. You went to Sears Roebuck and bought that.
I remember we went, I can't believe you're bringing this up.
Oh, it's Pick on Kids Day.
We went and had a couple of beers. This is when we were 20 and 21 or something like that, maybe a little younger. And we walked in, we knew the stereo broke the day of the party. So one of us, I'm not sure who, came up with an idea to go and buy a stereo and return it. So we went to my parents' top dresser drawer where they kept their credit cards. We grabbed the Sears card. We walk up to the front of it, got a couple beers in it already, and it says, satisfaction guaranteed or your money back. And John says, that's what we're looking for. So we went in. There's a young sales girl over there. And she said, this one's really nice. It has 4 speakers. John says, great. She goes, I can't believe this. We're having a contest right now, and I can't believe I'll be the leader if you buy this. She goes, and would you like the extra microphone? He goes, you bet. Put her in. The earphones, we'll take those too. So needless to say, we had a wonderful party and boxed the whole thing up the next day and took it back. And luckily she wasn't working. But a couple weeks later, we're sitting in the family room and my mother's going through the magazines, cleaning out the old ones. And here's this baggie with this owner's manual for a brand new stereo in it. And we didn't have credit cards then, and we didn't realize that it would show up as a purchase on the credit card, and then as a credit. We thought it was just zero-sum game, and unfortunately we were found out. But, so that was that story.
And aren't you boys smart?
Yeah, pretty ingenious. I think so, yeah.
I'll tell one more story about Aunt Catherine, and then this involves my mother. But you guys have all heard the story. It's a little bit like the caramel story that I hadn't remembered until you said it. But
when my mother used to call me a little name when I would be misbehaved. She would not want to call me a little fart, so she would say, "You little F-A-R-T." Okay. So one time, Catherine calls the house, and I'm 6 or something, and she says, "Who's this?" And I say, "Billy," and she knows who it is. And she says, "Who's this?" And I said, "Billy." She said, "Who's this?" And I said, "Billy, F-A-R-T, Billy."
At least you know how to smell it.
I remember you doubling up over the sink when that happened. It was Mother's Day, a week before Mother's Day. Fortunately, with computers now, you get a message that says, buy your mother a present. So click down there, sent her a nice flowers, called up and did the whole deal. They said, "Who do you want to sign it?" I said, "Just sign it. Your favorite son." It goes there. I just wait. Wait for the phone call. I'm waiting. Suddenly, a voicemail from my brother Tim. "You send Mother something? I got this call." The only good thing about it is it wasn't Jim who called.
You knew we were on the list.
Yeah, right.
Well, I was thinking at this time it would be nice to recognize the people that put the reunion together. And certainly my brother Ken, who... Uncle Ed wants you to stand up.
I understand.
Oh, okay.
Don't forget Margaret. She's the one who shamed me into being the sheriff.
Let's hear it for Margaret. Who said that?
Glenn said you should really have something like this when Tom last year, remember? It was stuck.
Yeah, and then he bugged out of it, typical man.
Delegating.
You might all want to introduce the two staying at the food counter up here. David and Rochelle.
Hey, David.